Hi, I'm Shane, and this is Dane Anderson. He's the A Pro and 30 plus challenge rider for BMXUltra.com. He's been on the team. How long have you been on the team for now? About 2 years?
Coming up 3 years.
3 years, wow. Time flies.
It does when you're having fun.
Yes, there's plenty of that.
There is.
What we're going to do with this video series is talk initially about what's happened in the past week, and then we'll touch on a subject or two. With Dane, we're going to talk about travelling. Dane's travelled extensively over the last probably 2 years, done some of the biggest races in the world, including the World Championships and the Grand Nationals. So we'll touch on that. Also, we're going to start a new feature on BMX Ultra called, well, I want to call it Daneosaur Tales, because it's all cute and stuff, and Dane's a cutie. But we might find a better name for that. And then after that, a couple of things that are coming up in BMX and on BMX Ultra over the next couple of weeks, I'd say. So to kick it off, Dane doesn't watch the Supercross, I found out.
I didn't this time round.
Yeah. Being a big BMX fan, obviously I stayed up nearly all night on Saturday night till about 3 a.m. just to watch the Supercross over in Berlin. It's a pretty exciting. You've seen the you've seen the Berlin track, haven't you, Dave?
Yeah.
Did you actually see any of the highlights or anything?
I was watching Bodie Turner's motos, and it was a pretty intense track.
Yeah.
And I was actually really, really happy for Bodie how he put it all together, through those qualifying motos.
I think he's made a final at Supercross round at Abbotsford a couple of years ago, maybe. So it's good to see him getting back close to there.
Definitely.
So a quick wrap up for anyone that missed it, like Dane over here. The winner of the second round, Sam Willoughby, didn't show. I read somewhere that he's saving himself for the World Championship, so that was interesting. We did see both the leader and what's his name, Liam Phillips from the UK, and Anthony Dean, who are running first and second in the overall points, bow out in the quarterfinals. We saw Caroline Buchanan come from behind and beat Mariana Perjon, which I didn't think would be possible, but clearly Caroline did. She had it all lined up right from the start.
I saw that, and it was a great move.
It was an awesome move. And I did see a GoPro video, I think it was Mariana's GoPro video, where Caroline was pretty excited over the finish line. She had a few words to say. And obviously Maris taking out his first Supercross round for the season. I guess it's never a surprise. He's always in there when it comes to the big events. SE have got a new range of bikes coming out. I think the whole international sales force is over in Taiwan at the moment checking out all the new products. They've been leaking photos on Instagram and Facebook and anywhere else they can leak them. Whole bunch of retro reproductions and more collaboration stuff, which was always cool. But they also let us leak the 2015 PK Elite XL complete bikes, so you can get on over to BMX Ultra and check those out. It's got all the specs and photos. Have you seen those yet, Dane? Yeah,
I have. It's interesting the way they've actually spec'd the bikes. They're really trying hard to push and keep up with everyone. Yeah,
when I looked at it, I thought, there's a couple of things I might change, but I mean, that's me. I'm very particular about some particular products, but if you're looking to get into racing and you've already got an entry-level bike, it's a great step up, I think. And SEs are always a great price, and I don't know, it'll be good to see. I think the 2015 SEs will take off.
Yeah.
And just this week I was down at Elite Cycle Imports, and they've got all the sample 2015 Chase Elements, and they've got a lower entry level bike called a Position 1, and pretty cool. They look nice as complete bikes. I think there's plenty of room in the Australian market for Chase. There's clearly with the frames, they're selling like hotcakes over here. The Element Completes kind of surprised me. They had a 20mm front end on even the Expert bike, using chrome ollie forks, which is always a surprise. I guess there'll be some people sort of screaming that they're not carbon, but I've always thought that the chrome ollie was a better option. If you're going for a 20mm front end, you're going for a stiff front end, and you're not going to get much stiffer than chromo. You've tried 20mm, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
What do you think of it?
I noticed a big difference.
Yeah.
A really big difference. Yeah. It was, I don't even know why the reason I went. Through Alienation don't do a 20mm hub in the Royal and the Bullet. So, running those wheel sets, that's the only reason why I pulled back to a standard dropout.
What else have we got here? Oh, those bikes, apparently they've vetoed taking photos of them for about the next month, but they'll be travelling around the country doing the ECI trade shows through July and August, so hopefully soon we'll be able to start leaking photos on those. Also, we've got a set of the new Speedline cranks here. Do you want to pass those over? Just a two-piece aluminium crank. These have been on all the social media for a while now, and kind of interesting. I'm not a big fan of alloy cranks myself, but they seem to have a big share of the market. Have you tried a two-piece alloy crank?
I've never run a two-piece alloy crank before. The closest thing I think I've run to these style of cranks is on my 4-cross bike, which is a stylo from Truvative. Very similar theory, being hollow in the arms and the two-piece design, but obviously quite different in the way that the actual pinching setup works. It doesn't have a pinch bolt. It's like a thread that clamps it in, and it actually pushes pressure on the bottom bracket.
Like a cam system?
Nearly, yeah. Yeah, they're a really, really good crank.
Do you find them stiff? An alloy crank stiff?
Ridiculously. Like those Truvative ones, massive difference. But then again, that's not on a BMX. So.
Yeah. But, I mean, like me, I run a 185 crank. You run a 182. They don't do alloy cranks in those sizes. But do you think if they did, you'd give them a crack?
I'd definitely try it, yeah.
Cool. Put those aside. All right, so the reason why we got you here was the topic of discussion for this episode is travelling with a bike. So you've done the World Championships in England in 2012?
Yep. Grand Nationals in 2012. The Queensland Nationals 2013 and the New Zealand Worlds in 2013.
And how many bikes did you travel with?
2013 travelled with 2 bikes, and 2012 for England travelled with 2 bikes, and Grands is just the 1 bike.
Okay. And do you find it quite expensive just to take the bikes with you?
It's all about how you organise yourself at the end of the day. So the way that I did it, I'd have my bike in the bag, and I'd pack all my race gear and my jocks and socks and stuff around the bike to add as padding, and then weigh it before I go to make sure it was under the 20 kilo mark. You take a backpack with the rest of your stuff and a helmet bag that you can jam things in, and that's pretty much how you get away with your luggage limit.
So 20 kilos, when you've got 2 bikes with you, you're obviously going to exceed that.
Oh yes, so you sort of get 20 kilos per.
Oh, right. So you got two items of luggage.
So the last couple of times I've been over, I've travelled with my wife, and she's been able to take one of the bikes with her. So
right.
she'd pack all her stuff around the cruiser, and the same type of theory.
Yeah.
So it works out. You can get away with it really quite easily, and most people, at the airports are quite lenient. Yeah. If you're a couple of 100 grams over, they're not going to care too much.
So it'd probably make it a bit difficult with the wife if she goes shopping and wants to pack stuff. She'd really have to consider what she's going to buy and where she's going to put it and how she's going to bring it home. So it's probably a good stopper there, isn't it?
It is.
What kind of bags do you use? Do you use like a bike bag in particular, or do you use a suitcase?
I use the DK golf bags. That's pretty much the standard staple for travelling around. There are a lot of other types of bags I've seen in bike shops that guys use for road bikes and things like that, but I just find they're too bulky, and they're more of an upright type of style, where the golf bags it just looks like a giant gear bag.
Yeah.
A lot easier to pack things around. It's very versatile.
Yeah.
And they're quite cheap.
Yeah. Well, I guess when you're looking at luggage in general, it can be quite expensive and very comparable. What tools do you take with you when you go?
I take just the essentials. So a pedal spanner, whatever size my wheels are. It's usually an 8mm Allen key or a 17mm spanner. 5, 6, 8mm Allen key, and a shifter, and that's about it.
No pump?
In all the years I've been riding bikes, they still don't own a pump.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So, the regulation with airlines is to let all the tyre pressure out so the tyres don't blow when you're in the air, all that sort of stuff. Do you let the tyres down?
I do.
So what do you use to pump the tyres up?
I go and find a servo or something, or just ask someone to borrow their pump. The good thing when travelling interstate and, internationally is when you go to these events, there are a lot of people that are travelling to that same event as well. So you'll share a common goal, which is, racing your bike, and most people are more than happy to lend you a pump. I mean, that's not a really big deal, is it?
No.
Yeah.
Have you ever started putting your bike together and thought, oh bugger, I've left a tool home or anything like that?
So what I do, as I'm packing my bike, I actually put the tools that I use to take a certain part off. Say if I need a 5 and a 6 to take my head stem, my headset out, put them straight in the bag, because that's what I've used, and that's what I'll use to put it back together.
All right, so what about when you're packing the bike? Obviously, they get tossed around a bit by the airlines. Is there anything you consider there, the way you pack it, what you put around the frame, and how closely packed the bike parts are and all that sort of stuff?
You're sort of limited to space in the golf bags. I mean, you can fit a lot in there, but it's all about where you position things. But when you've got a wheel, and especially for a cruiser's a lot harder to pack into a golf bag just due to the size of the wheels. So it's a bit of a stretch, but if you sort of get, the way I go about it is put my clothes in like a garbage bag or something like that, so they don't get dirty to begin with, but it just adds that extra protective layer. You sandwich in between things, and you really make sure it's quite tight. That way, when it does get tossed around at the airport, it's not going to affect too much.
What about do customs pull you up and check out the bike for dirt and all the rest of it?
Going to Grands in 2012, was stopped off at Honolulu, and their customs team had opened the bag and sprayed some sort of rubbish in there.
Or something,
and okay, you can't do much about it, but luckily I had stuff in a bag. Otherwise, it would have been smelling like chemical.
And have you had anything damaged in transit?
I actually had my chrome bolt, my Supercross bolt that I took to America, had a small ding in it.
Were you able to make a claim or anything like that?
Travel insurance, they don't claim for bicycles.
Oh, so is there a travel insurance for bicycles?
There is. BMX Australia have one for BMX specific and cycling specific, and it's a reasonable price, but I only went over for a week for the Grands, so I couldn't quite justify. I went through another insurance company who claimed that they were able to cover me for any accidents, but it turned out that in the super fine print, it wasn't the case.
So accidents, but not equipment.
Yes.
Gosh. And you've had a couple of big crashes while you've been at some of these races. I think you crashed heavily at England. You got concussion. And you crashed at the Grand in your first moto? No, not the Grand. No,
that was New
Worlds
Zealand.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
At any time, did you need to make any claims, or were you nervous about having to go to a foreign hospital or anything like that?
No, they weren't to that extent. Like, I walked away from the one in England.
You walked away from a concussion?
Yeah, I was a bit hazy, but I certainly got up and walked. A couple of guys that saw me, I think Max Cairns said to me, "Hi, Dane," and I didn't even know who he was at the time. So I wandered off to the first aid tent, but.
He would have been on his way to the first aid tent as well, wouldn't he? He had a crash there too, I think.
I can't remember. In New Zealand it wasn't that bad either. It was more just skin off than anything. So you just go to the first aid tent, and they were happy to patch me up for the time being. Yeah.
So you don't want to push it as far as insurance goes. You don't.
I think this time round. For Grands this year, I'll definitely be taking out the BMX Australia insurance, just to cover everything, because I don't want any mishaps.
Are you taking both bikes this time?
Undecided still. It's definitely going to be a 20-inch. But I think I need to take a cruiser this time, just to experience a different side of it.
Do they have open classes there as well? Is there like I don't know the class. I'm pretty sure they have open classes, pretty much for the reason of. Bigger events, sitting around for a long time, 2 moto or 3 moto transfer, whatever it might be. and they throw open events. Isn't I'm sure Felicia Stansel raced 3 classes, and one of them was an open class.
I can't really remember.
Yeah,
I didn't really look into it. I was probably more focused on just getting there and racing and just experiencing it. I mean, your first Grands experience is one that I don't think you'll ever forget. So for me, that time it was just getting there and having a good time.
Yeah.
And enjoying the atmosphere that it's just undescribable.
So what was the appeal of the Grands over maybe spending a couple of weeks in the middle of the year and doing some back-to-back races?
The Grands is quite possibly the biggest race in the world. Like, I think it supersedes your World Championships. You have all of the big names in BMX there, and the actual area it's a massive indoor area, but you have thousands of people. And if you sort of put it in comparison to putting the Grand Slam tennis, the AFL Grand Final all together, and that's the type of atmosphere that it puts together. It's just phenomenal.
So, travelling to a foreign country, massive race meeting, did you bump into any other Aussies or people you may have met along the line?
Yeah. I ran into quite a few people. Like I ran into Steve Hewitt and David Elms the first time I went to America, and like I didn't know those guys too well. I think I met them at the Nationals at Mount Gambier, and just said hello and the usual chit chat about racing. That was it, and they were sitting under Bill Ryan's tent, and that's where I was posted as well.
In the Supercross camp.
The Supercross camp, yep. Had a chat, we hung out and stuff like that. And I think Steve and I will be hitting it up again this year.
Okay, no Dave?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard from Dave and what he's doing. But it'll be an entertaining little adventure. So
Steve has a similar issue to you, staying upright on the bikes at big international events, I believe.
Well,
he was pretty banged up when he flew back from last year's Grand.
He was, yeah.
Would you ever be tempted to do some of the other events apart from the Grands?
I'd like to. Yeah, it's just a matter of putting it together and planning. So from a rider point of view, and for someone who has a full-time job like everyone else, responsibilities, mortgage, wife, etc., you really do need to plan it properly, and to sort of put that into perspective with your training as well. You're not going to go over there unprepared. You want to sort of at least be somewhat competitive rather than just be at the back of the pack and get motoed.
So this is the reason why you're not going to the Worlds this year? You had a fair bit of time off the bike with injuries. What, the head injury and a wrist?
Broken wrist. I was actually training for last year's Grands and broke my wrist. It was just one of those, it was a silly accident. Just ran into the back of Brian Alexander on a cool-down pump lap. Fell a bit funny, and that was the scaphoid. And then once I came back from that, things were looking good again, and all I remember is waking up in ICU.
Wow.
And the guy who took me there said I unclipped over the second jump at Geelong, and that was that.
Bloody clips. So you're back on clips already, back on the track, you're all ready to race.
Yep. I had close to 6 months off, and Nationals was my second race back. And the pre-national event, I think it was maybe Pro Tour.
Okay.
Yep, that was my first one back. So it was a bit of a shock to the system to come back and race those races. But hey, I had a goal of making both finals, and I was happy with that.
Getting back to the whole travelling thing, we race under a particular set of rules here. You go to the UCI World Championships, it's run like the Nationals, I guess. And you go to the Grands, you got the transfer system. Do you worry about trying to keep up with all the rules in all the various organisations, or do you just race and hope, race to the line and try to qualify? Do you worry about how the points work, how transfer work, all that sort of stuff?
I'm probably the one that just races to stay in the top 4.
Yep.
And in Australia, generally, the top 4 keeps you fairly safe, but you always aim a little bit higher. As long as you come in at that cut-off point, then you're pretty safe to transfer. In America, I didn't know the format, so it was more of a word of mouth to me than what it was like. Obviously, asking people questions about what's it like, how do you transfer through and things like that. I didn't know the actual format.
You were also able to do the Race of Championships,
Yes.
Race of Champions on the Friday before, weren't you?
Yeah.
And that was a big help.
it was a help, but it was also a really big eye opener on you know, how it runs. Like you do your first moto and you're hanging around for 6 hours after that.
Yeah,
That's unheard of in Australia. You're sort of sitting there twiddling your thumbs. You've cooled right down. You could nearly go back to the hotel and have a sleep if you wanted.
How do the numbers compare? So you race A-Pro here, you've got maybe 3 or 4 gates of riders.
Yeah.
If you go to the World Championships, how many riders do you have in your age group?
We've probably got close to 40 to 50 riders.
Okay.
Actually, that's probably cruiser. So I think last year we had 76.
Yeah.
So we had quite a few gates. Obviously, it drops off on cruiser because cruiser's still, it's not super popular, but it's definitely fun to ride.
Yeah. What about the Grands? Were the numbers similar?
Oh, they were huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grands is
Bigger?
huge. Much bigger. It probably nudging nearly close to 100 riders.
Okay.
So the way that worked was you had to get in the top 2.
Yeah.
You know, to transfer through. So every time, you know, your top 2 riders went through, then those 2 would transfer straight through to the final. And then the rest of that moto would go again the next round.
Yeah.
And then the top 2 from them goes through to the next moto. And then the other guys just get dropped.
How did you go? You took one bike, did you say?
Yep. I made it through to the semi-finals, I think it was.
Okay.
Which was okay. I was happy.
Was that your goal?
It was a goal. Just to make any type of final was a goal.
Yeah. And what do you think you need to do differently to make it through to the main?
Probably be more aggressive. A little bit timid there, being the first time. I was there alone, realistically, even though I did, you know, meet Steve and Dave there. But I think it was just about soaking up the atmosphere and enjoying the experience rather than, you know, gunning for gold.
Yeah. Did it make a difference that you're an outsider to the American riders? Like, did they take you in and talk to you and all that sort of stuff? Or did they kind of think, well, this guy's a foreigner?
They are actually really nice.
Yeah.
Off the track, very, very nice people. Very welcoming. A lot of guys, like I was riding the Chrome Bolt then, and a lot of guys would come up and compliment me on, you know, how cool the Chrome was.
Were you still on flats then?
No, I was clipped in then. And yeah, but on the racetrack, it's obviously a different story. Pretty much the same with us.
Yeah.
You know, you can be all chummy off the track, but, you know, race time's race time.
Yeah. Is it any more argy-bargy kind of physical?
Yep.
It is? Yeah.
The guys are a lot more inclined to throw elbows and get really, really close and give you a nudge if need be.
Yeah. Do you think it's a difference in interpretation of rules? If it was a bit more argy-bargy over here in Australia, where they tend to try and keep everyone separated, even though it's a contact sport, do you think you would have been better prepared when you went to America?
No, I don't think so. Like in A-Pro, and I would only assume for double A-Pro, you know, it can get argy-bargy.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it can get a bit physical. A-Pro's probably more physical, I believe.
Yeah.
Because you've got so many guys that make really, really crazy moves in turns and things like that.
Yeah.
I remember watching Wade Turner. Now, who did he thump in the second turn of Eastfield? He came under someone, massive bump, and that's the type of thing that you really don't see too much of, but that's just a small indication of what it is actually like in A-Pro.
Yeah. Who from Australia would you like to see actually go over to the US and see how they'd pan out over there?
I think anyone and everyone. I believe it's the type of event that you need to go and experience. I feel that a lot of Australians get too hooked up in Australian BMX and they tend to be Australian only. They don't sort of push that limit to try and see what's outside. I mean, I understand a lot of guys go to World Championships and things like that, but there are a lot of guys from America that don't go to the World Championships because they don't qualify. So when you go over,
they've got their own series, and it means more to them to be NAG number one than a world champion in some cases.
Yeah, and when you go over there, it is a completely different kettle of fish. It's an eye opener, and I really, really do feel for the progression of younger riders. You know, if their parents can get them over there, get over there and try it out, because it really is an experience to be had.
So I've heard that the Grands has actually got a party atmosphere, but there's a whole lot of stuff on the line there. You got all your number ones for all the different things, you know, and I just don't see how it could be a party atmosphere. Is it that way through the event, or once the event finishes, it just changes into a massive Mardi Gras or something?
When it's race time, everyone's getting ready. They're doing their warm-ups. They're doing their sprints. It's all very serious. After the motos or after the racing, there are kids, scooting around on their bikes, doing tricks and things like that. Danny George was there trying to learn some sort of front-ended thing with her foot, like jamming in the front tire,
right.
whatever you call that. There's a lot of messing around. It's a lot of fun. Outside of that, it is a lot of fun. But it's definitely business time when it comes down to racing.
What about vendor row at the Grands? That'd have to be pretty massive, wouldn't it?
It's awesome. It is awesome. Like, so many cool things.
Yeah.
I saw the Haro clutch frame, like in its raw state. Its prototype.
Yep.
It was like a brownie colour.
A clay kind of.
Yeah. And I looked at it and went, wow, that's pretty cool. But, it took a long time for that to progress to get to where it is now.
Yeah.
So it was really good to see all the new products that people had come out with. And I think the Elite cranks were there as well, and they were fairly fresh.
Oh, right, yep.
Yeah, and to see a set of those, in the flesh, I think they were in a candy apple red, and it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. I guess the other thing is looking at all the trailers and things like that. It's not like a small little bike trailer. We're talking semi-trailers, and guys go in and have a couch and things to kick back on.
Yeah.
It's just huge.
And the teams are set up so they do lots of signing for the kids and all that sort of stuff, and hand out stickers and brochures and all the rest of it. Did you manage to collect anything, any autographs or anything like that when you were over there?
No autographs. I was able to get the Supercross catalogue that had a photo of me in which I'd been trying to get for a long time.
Oh, right.
Because it was, I think we only got one sent over to Australia, but they just had them in bulk there, so I was able to get one of those for myself. And other than that, I don't think I was really too interested in getting autographs from people. It's more just meeting. I think I met Kalen Young for the first time there. Quick hello, how you going?
Did he recognise you as being Australian, or you actually went up to him and had a chat?
No, I was just riding past.
Okay.
And, when you say g'day, mate, I guess
it stands out, doesn't it?
Stand out, yeah.
So what about when you came back from one of these bigger races to race back home? Usually, so what, the Grands is in November, so you would have come back to a track attack or something like that. You don't normally race track attack, do you? Is there kind of like a coming down period after racing such a big event, such big competition, and then you come back and, I don't know, if you were doing the world, you'd come back to basically a club event.
Yep.
I think I went once to the States and I raced NBL Grands around August, and then I went to Bendigo, and Bendigo managed to pull 120 riders for an open race, and it just didn't feel right. You know? All you wanted to do was go back. Did you feel that? Did you sort of think, what am I doing here? I need to go back again.
Yeah, I wanted to go back straight away. I felt the tracks were on a completely different level. I mean, American tracks not be massive by all cases, but they are impeccably groomed. They're hard, they're fast, and there's
long too.
Not too long.
Okay.
Not too bad. But they're great. There's good skill needed to sort of ride them at speed. There's so many different lines you can take.
Yeah.
But it's just, you hop onto one of those tracks and you go, wow. Like, I don't even think a world's track is, as well groomed as an American track.
All right. So they got the same cadence as we're used to. The gate drop's the same, including the random delay.
Yep.
But over there, the indoor track, they have to build the hill as well. So obviously they don't go massive. It was only 1.5 meters, 2 meters tall.
Yeah, it wasn't huge.
How did you find going from what we normally run, bigger hills, to a smaller one? Did you find that a problem?
I did a lot of practice before Grands. I went to Bendigo quite a few times to ride there, and that's a very similar gate. It's quite
and
flat.
Geelong is too?
Geelong's, Geelong's not too bad for that.
Okay.
And I saw that kind of helped me a lot, but then again, I've sort of come from a flat gate background, so you're kind of used to that. Obviously, leading up to other events, you'd go to tracks like Lilydale and Eastfield for that, nice tall and steep transition.
Did you actually like a smaller hill? Do you think there's more, technique or power or something required out of a smaller hill? Do you think it'll change the race because of the size and the kind of speed you can generate?
I think it all comes down to how you set yourself up. For example, if you're on a bigger hill that has a transition, you're going to set yourself differently on the gate and try and aim to get your front wheel over that transition so you can get the most pump down the hill. On a shallow hill, I think it's more your pedal technique and your power, and once again where you have your pedals set. You definitely need to have a stronger gate when you're on a flatter hill.
All right, I reckon that's enough about travelling. One of the other reasons why we brought you here was to talk about Daneosaur Tales. So what we're planning on doing is a blog series with Dane. Dane does a lot of training that's kind of unusual. Actually, I'll let you discuss it, but we just believe it'd be a good thing for a lot of people that have followed Dane on Facebook and seen that he does some pretty wacky training that not everyone would normally do, and he likes to mix it up a lot. And people like myself follow him and find it pretty exciting to watch, but I don't know if I'd try some of it. Gee, that Pylo stuff...
It's fun.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's fun. So the whole idea of this was to basically say to people that, you know, around my age or older...
How old are you?
I'm 31.
Okay.
Going on 32. You know, that actually want to sort of get as much as they can out of their riding. Just to say that it's, you know, it's not impossible to achieve your BMX goals. I have a mortgage, like most people, full-time job and other responsibilities, but can still work my training around my weekly schedule, you know, to keep things flowing and keep competitive. Obviously in the winter months there's not much we can do, but there are other things like a lot of cross-training and stuff like that, so I've obviously adapted, you know, doing more four-cross, more road rides, and just recently bought a cross-country bike, so I've been doing some Ks up the Yangs, going to Castlemaine this weekend to ride up there, and it's just those types of different things to put into perspective what people can actually do and achieve for their BMX riding goals.
Cool. What format is it going to be? Are you going to be sending us photos, just text? Is it going to be video?
The idea to begin, like obviously the first episode, I guess you'd call it, is basically just going to be a bit of a mix-up of everything that I've done over the last month. Tess from Geelong Health and Fitness has jumped on again and given me another program to work on. A program possibly similar to England 2012's program. And like she knows how I operate and how my body works and things like that probably better than most people. And she can obviously extract the best performance out of me. So she's putting together something at the moment. And
does that program have a particular focus? Is it building up strength? Is it
there's
conditioning?
It's probably more so conditioning, but I think this time round we're more working on bike handling skills and being on a bike. So I think we're only going to be in a gym maybe once or twice a week.
Sounds like my kind of program.
Yeah, it's a good program. And, you know, do sprint training and things like that, but probably more so bike skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So does that mean you just go for rides with Ando?
Well, it could do. It means basically just riding as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
But then, for example, before I go to work, one morning I'll go in and get the gym stuff out of the way. I don't mind waking up at 4 a.m. and getting into the gym, doing my hour-and-a-half session, and then go to work.
I can't believe you said you don't mind waking up at 4 a.m. Wow.
It's hard, but and this is what I mean. It sort of comes down to if you really want something bad enough, you sort of go to the extent to to do it and to get it done.
Yep.
So for me, it's really one of those no excuse type of things. If you actually want to progress with something, you really got to put in the yards.
Sounds like too much hard work.
Yeah, it's good. And I guess like for people who have done it, it's something that when you stop, you kind of feel a little bit lost, and you keep going. It's just one of those things that you get used to doing.
Yeah. So you've been racing now for what? It's quite a while, isn't it? 6-7 years?
6 years now.
6 years?
Yeah.
And you took a break because you were riding earlier as well,
yeah?
How different is your training now to what it was when you first got into it?
Oh, I don't think I trained at all when I first got into it. It was just a matter of piecing things together from when I rode as a kid and You know, it's being like literally getting back on a bike and jumping things for me was probably the biggest challenge, and then believing in ability and things like that.
So it's not not that you didn't have goals back then, but your goals were more bike oriented, like being able to jump a particular jump, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And now that you've got all that under your belt,
Yep.
it's taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
So you must be very far off turning AA Pro.
I'm probably about $600 off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that a daunting thought? Because, you know, changing from A Pro to AA Pro is quite a big step. You know, you'd be racing against, well, in Victoria here, Max Cairns, Josh Callan, Bodie Turner when he comes home, those kind of guys. Does that worry you? Or?
Look, it's for someone who's been riding for the amount of time that I have and being the age that I am, look, nothing's impossible, but, you know, I'm not going to expect any miracles. I mean, these guys do this every single day, day in, day out. That's what they do. So, you know, if I can at least stay within a certain distance to them, then I'd be pretty happy. You know, if I make a main every now and again, I'll be pretty happy. But you don't expect... there's not too many guys out there that are, you know, mid-30 or early 30s to mid-30s that can, you know, bang bars with some of Victoria's fastest AA's.
Well, that's true. Yeah, Ando's the only one I could think of. What, he finished second or third last year at the Cash Dash?
Yep.
Yeah, really not too many other guys. All right, so anything else that you think people should expect from your blog?
I'm hoping to get some video together, as well as some photos, but what I'd like to do is just sort of highlight a few things that I do that's a little bit different to what most other people do, most other training theories, and just different spots, maybe highlight some areas where people can go and ride, you know, around the place or where I go.
We've started doing that on Ultra, actually, just a locations video. We kicked that off with Kensington, because obviously you can go to a BMX track, but you know, you want to mix it up a bit.
Yeah,
don't you?
Definitely. Yeah, so there's a lot of trails around. Bendigo has a lot of hidden trails that people don't know about, and you know, Geelong has some. We've got some. The Yuyangs is a great place to go. Lots of different crazy tracks up there.
There's been a lot of rain lately, and it's probably going to get worse. Where would you normally go for a ride if you wanted to go out in the BMX bike during winter?
I'd probably go to a skate park.
Okay.
Geelong has an indoor park called The Park.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff to do there. Otherwise, come to Melbourne and there's a couple of indoor skate parks there. The only thing you got to watch out for is scooter riders. But, you know, that's the way it is.
And skateboards too, I found out.
Oh, really?
All right, so we'll finish that up with the Daneosaur Tales. Really, I don't know if we need to find a better name.
Yeah,
Can you think of anything? I can't think.
I'm sure it'll get lost and it'll just be called that anyway. So.
Just to wrap up, what we want to do as a part of the regular format is talk about what's coming up in BMX over the next week or so before we do the next recording. And I had a quick look through the schedule internationally. All I could find was the Rock's coming up again in 2 weeks. Have you seen the Rock at Rockford, Illinois? No. It's just another one of the USA BMX fast, not so technical tracks, but it tends to draw quite a big crowd. So generally keep an eye out on the results at that track. I raced there once, I think it was in 2000. So I got a bit of a soft spot for it, and keep an eye out on what's going on there. So that's on June the 27th and 29th. Also coming up on Ultra, we've been lucky enough to strike up some relationships. So we've got a couple of GHP frames coming across to check out. I expect them to arrive sometime next week. And we possibly might be adding a rider to ride one of those frames, as well as just have one for review. So it's a XXL, so Dane and I will check that one out. You've ridden a GHP before, haven't you? Yeah, I had one as well. I was supposed to only use it for a review, and I ended up sticking with it for about 6 months. How did you find it?
I thought it was a well-balanced bike. Yeah.
So looking forward to riding this new one. Yeah. And also SC are going to shoot us across a 2015 PK Elite XL, so we'll check that one out as well. I don't remember the last time I've ridden an SE. I've got a couple of mid-school SEs built, and always fond of mid-school and old-school SE, but I've never really checked out the new school ones, so it'd be nice to finally get to ride one of those and see what they're like. So another one will have to hit you up and find it somewhere dirty to ride. I don't know if they'd be any good taken to the skate park.
Probably not.
All right, so that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks, Dane, for coming and joining us. Hopefully we'll see you again, and look out for Daneosaur Tales.
Basically, my opinion is that people tend to get too tied up in BMX in Australia.
Thanks, Maffy.
Don't bug me.
Having won 2 Olympic gold medals, you can never count him out.
Yeah, that's true.
Hello, Matheson.
Hi.
I think Matheson likes Dane. I think he likes the camera too.